You know, many of you have probably been involved in campaigns, and one of the great things about being involved in a campaign is you meet the most amazing people that maybe if we all lived 1,000 years, we'd eventually meet each other anyway. But a campaign has a way of bringing people together, and in my experience, you end up meeting, you know, the angels that are walking among us. And Ray is that kind of guy, who is just so kind and so gentle and so creative and so committed. And he reached out to me through one of my best friends in the world, Vanessa Getty, and said that he wanted to bring together his community here in Venice, because he is of and for and by Venice in so many ways in terms of knowing how special this community is. And he wanted to create the connection. And in doing that, you're doing the best of what I could hope for. And really, it's the basis of our democracy as a country, right? Because, you know, they say that thing about, you know, all politics is local. And it's true. This campaign, this race, and the reasons I'm running have everything to do with every one of you who is here tonight. And you could be doing a lot of other things. And I'm so honored and I'm so pleased that you're here to hear a little bit about what I have to say. So thank you all, and thank you, Ray. And so there's so many new faces here, and I'm going to start my comments then by sharing with you a little bit about who I am and my background, because I think it puts in perspective a lot of the decisions I've made and my priorities as we go forward. So I'll start at the very beginning. I am one of two daughters of parents who met when they were graduate students at the University of California, Berkeley in the 60s. And my parents met when they were actively involved in the civil rights movement. So I grew up in an environment where pretty much all of the adults around us spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. So for me, growing up in that environment, the heroes in my life were the architects of that great civil rights movement. And they, of course, were the lawyers. It was Charles Hamilton Houston and Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley, who were taking the skill of this great profession and translating the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country, and doing the work that unfortunately had to be done of reminding folks of that promise we articulated in 1776, which is, of course, that we are all and should be treated as equals. So I then decided at a very young age I wanted to be a lawyer. I went on to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and then came back home to California and attended Hastings College of the Law. And in law school, then I made the decision about what I wanted to do with my career. So I was very excited, and I got my family together, and they were like, okay, Kamala, what have you decided you're going to do in your pursuit of justice? And I just was very tickled, and I said, well, I've decided I'm going to be a prosecutor. Now, if any of y'all have a sense of who my family is, you'll know that this decision was at best curious, and in some ways I had to defend that decision like one would a thesis. But what I said then is what I absolutely maintain today after a career as a prosecutor, which is this: law enforcement has such a profound and direct impact on the most vulnerable among us, and has its responsibility and duty and job to be a voice for the voiceless, and in the process of ensuring their safety, also give them dignity. So I decided I wanted to be a prosecutor, and I went right out of law school to what was considered to be one of the best DA's offices in the country, and that's the Alameda County DA's office. And in large part, it got that reputation because years before, the DA of Alameda County was Earl Warren, who, of course, went on to be the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court and the author of Brown versus Board of Education, which was that seminal case that desegregated schools in the United States. And so the connection between that and me being there, I've always enjoyed, because I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley Public Schools. So I started my career as a prosecutor. And that was the work of standing before juries for many years, talking with many juries about why justice demands and dictates that there will be serious and swift and severe accountability when one human being kills another human being, or when a woman is raped or a child is molested. It was the work of standing before those juries and saying, we all agree in a civil society that justice occurs when we hold people who harm other human beings accountable. I frankly have sent a lot of people to prison as a result of that work. I then went on to my office under my predecessor, the San Francisco DA's office. Didn't think the office was being run so well, so I went to the city attorney's office in San Francisco, and I headed the Children and Families Division, where I did policy work in San Francisco to the benefit of children and families there. And then I was encouraged to run and challenge the incumbent DA in San Francisco. Now, he at the time was someone who came from an old political family in San Francisco. He had been in office for 2 terms, and his nickname is KO because he liked to box and he was known for knocking people out. And so, not deterred, I decided, okay, we're going to do this because we think the job could be done better. There were 3 of us in the race, another guy who was a career prosecutor. I was very excited when we started out that campaign, and then I was sitting in our campaign headquarters, and I got that first report of our polling numbers, and I looked at the piece of paper, I was just so excited, and then I looked and I saw we were at a very healthy 6 points in the polls. Yes, that is 6 out of 100. But you know what we did? We were not deterred. What we did is we did what I remember my parents doing not so long before in terms of their politics. We put together a coalition of people who seemingly have nothing in common, but who have everything in common when we talk about what we all want and value in terms of believing that when we are raising children, they will be in a community where they will be safe. When we have elders in our community, they will be free from predatory practices and allowed to live that phase of their life in dignity. What we all want when we think about youth who may enter the juvenile justice system and hope that they will be cycled out before they become the career criminal. So we talked about this concept of how we should think about our community and captured the concept in a slogan of mine, which is, let's not talk about this simplistic thing about, well, you're either soft on crime or you're tough on crime. Instead, let's ask, are we smart on crime? And we won that election, and I became the first woman elected district attorney of San Francisco and the first African-American woman elected district attorney in the state of California.